There's been a lot of publicity about various comments made by players, both in interviews, post-match, and on Twitter. We have very, very high standards in World Snooker, and we are very, very aware of the contribution made to other people to the dramatic success of this sport over the last 2 years. In particular, we are aware of our broadcast contracts, our site venue agreements, and our sponsor contracts, our three principal means of income other than spectator tickets. We expect at World Snooker every player to acknowledge and observe the terms of the player's contract that each player signs to participate on main tour events. Mark Allen's comments at the press conference yesterday and Mark Williams' comments on his Twitter are unacceptable to World Snooker, and as such both players will be forwarded to the disciplinary process of World Snooker in an effort to make these players understand that you don't have a contract unless you have to follow the terms. If you want the benefits of playing, then you observe the terms of players' contracts. And in particular in Mark Williams' case, you have to remember that Twitter is in the public domain and players are responsible for the comments they make on Twitter. If these comments look likely to bring the game of snooker into disrepute and to be in breach of the player's contract, then the very sternest disciplinary action will be taken against both players. It's time for players to understand prize money has more than doubled in 2 years. It comes at a price. It's called professionalism. Any player that decides to ignore the player's contract that he signs to take advantage of these new benefits in snooker means that they are risking their position on the main tour. This is a zero tolerance. The players will be very, very well advised to listen to these words, and we leave the matter now in the hands of the disciplinary authorities of the WPBSA. But I hope I've made my point entirely clear. Which is why our recommendation is that if these claims are found, if he's found guilty of being in breach of his player's contract, then I would expect the WPBSA to take a more serious approach at the level of fines. And bear in mind, it's not just fines we're talking about here. It's potential, in the case of offending rules on more than one occasion, then you have to take that into account of how far do we go until the players understand their responsibility to the game. And we know that Mark Allen has had problems in Hearn on Twitter, as we know. We know that it's been followed up with other problems of non-appearance at PR, opportunities, non-compliance with other rules. There comes a certain stage where you have to say enough is enough. And I'm trusting the WPBSA disciplinary system to take that into account. If they don't take into account, then we've got to look at our own rules again, because it will be taken into account. I don't issue long contracts just for them to be ignored or not read. And I expect, especially amongst the senior players, and Mark Williams is a good example. Mark Williams is a double world champion. I expect some common sense from what I've always expected to be fairly intelligent people. I'd have been equally annoyed if it had been talking about a player from Iceland. It's the contents of the slander, if you like. But it's also, you have to be, I do understand, and that's when we talk about mitigation, you do understand that sometimes coming in front of you guys straight after a game can be intimidating, can be problematical because you're disappointed with your performance, you've just lost a game, but doesn't excuse the behaviour. It may be a small mitigation. And I have to say, in favour of Mark Allen, you know, he held his hand up and said the better man won. Well, that doesn't mean to say he hasn't done some danger along the way. You cannot criticise your fellow professionals in this manner, because the referee is the sole arbiter of the game. If you noticed something was wrong, you had an opportunity to say something there and then, which clearly he didn't. And as we've seen in football, referees are human beings. I'm not technically qualified to tell you, was it a foul or not? I don't think it's my remit. That's what the referee is there for. there is a code of conduct and a method of how you can object or complain about things afterwards. But certainly the way that that was expressed is not the way forward. And I think, taking into account other comments that have been made and the track record that's been established, it's time these people learnt. The big issue is I don't really want anything like this. I want everyone to understand that we're very fortunate to be involved in snooker at this time. This is a very good time to be a snooker player. It's not a good time to be an idiot. Good time is when you're going skint and no one notices. No. But now look, we know we've got everything going our way. I find it so frustrating. Perhaps it's because I'm getting old. I find it so frustrating, you know. Why, when we're building things up, why, when we're creating relationships around the world, when we've got this fantastic support from Sheffield, this, you know, the Sheffield City Council, Visit Yorkshire, these people could not be doing more for us. Why a double world champion could resort to language like that in the public domain, criticising a venue, is totally and completely beyond me. I just don't understand. I mean, it goes a lot worse than a bad hair day, doesn't it? It is absolute lunacy, and I hope he gets, treated accordingly, because I think we expect a responsibility. And what's worrying for me is we have a great breed of young, new talent coming into this game. They look at these peer players that have done it and bought the T-shirt. They are their role model. If I allow any so-called role model to get away with comments like that, what message am I sending out to the standards of behaviour I expect from the young people coming up? Because if you've noticed, I haven't had a lot of problems with the influx of new members who are just concentrating on playing snooker. And, you know, it's just the opportunity is there. Go and take it. Go to work. I don't want to keep hearing stories about how tired you are going to work. I'm not a good person to talk to about being tired of going to work. There's millions of people in this country who would like to be tired of going to work. They can't find a job. This is lunacy. So boys, get your act together. Realise this is a brilliant time to be a snooker player, and be supportive of those that support us. And set the standards for the next generation of players coming through. It's not a lot to ask.